Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a big one, a famously complex spiritual text called A Course in Miracles. Now, we're not just going to read it. We're going to approach this a little differently. We're going to unlock its core ideas using a philosopher's toolkit.
So let's just kick things off with a question that has captivated thinkers for, well, centuries. How do we even begin to separate what's truly real from what just seems real? And trust me, getting a handle on this is the key to everything we're about to explore.
You know, it might sound like a pretty modern, abstract question, but believe it or not, this exact thing sparked a massive debate way back in the Middle Ages. It was called the universal controversy, and it all boils down to how we understand the words we use for, well, pretty much everything. The debate basically split philosophers into two camps. On one side, you had the nominalists. They said only individual physical things are real, like the specific rose you can see and touch. For them, the word rose with a capital R is just a convenient label, a name. But on the other side were the realists, who were channeling Plato. They argued that the universal idea of rose, the perfect concept that covers all roses everywhere, that was the true, unchanging reality. And this wasn't just some dusty, old academic argument. It's so fundamental to how we think that Umberto Eco actually made it a central theme of his blockbuster novel, The Name of the Rose. I mean, the title itself is a giant wink to this exact philosophical problem. So you might be thinking, okay, what does a medieval debate about roses have to do with a 20th century spiritual text? Well, as it turns out, everything. A Course in Miracles, or ACIM, comes along and throws its own radical answer into the ring, one that tries to settle this age-old question for good. But to really get what ACIM is saying, we first need to forge our key. We need to build our little philosopher's toolkit. And don't worry, it only has two main concepts in it, but they are crucial for unlocking everything else. Okay, first up is a term called intention. This is basically a concept's list of rules. It's the definition. So for the concept bachelor, the intention would be the rules must be a man and must be unmarried. It's the act of defining, and by its very nature, it's an act of limiting. The second tool in our kit is extension, and it's the flip side of the coin. If intention is the definition, extension is the scope. It's the actual group of all the things that fit that definition. So the extension of bachelor isn't the rule. It's the set of every single actual bachelor that exists in the world. And here's where it gets really interesting. This is the crucial trade-off. Intention and extension have this inverse relationship, like a seesaw. The more rules you add to your definition, that's cranking up the intention, the fewer things are going to fit into that category. So its extension shrinks. This little trade-off right here is the secret to understanding everything that's coming next. All right, we've got our toolkit, we've got intention and extension down. Now we can finally use these tools to see how A Course in Miracles pulls off its really radical simplification of reality. So the course opens with this incredibly bold statement. And this isn't just a nice poetic line. This is the foundational axiom of its entire thought system. Everything else flows from this single idea. If it's real, it can't be hurt. If it's not real, it was never there to begin with. So while philosophers like Aristotle came up with 10 different categories for reality, the Course just sweeps all that off the table and says, nope, there are only two that actually matter. First, you have the real, eternal, whole, unchangeable, what it calls God or love. And then you have the unreal, which is our entire perceived world of time, of differences, of separation, and of fear. The Course then takes these two ways of seeing reality, and in a way, it personifies them. It suggests there are two totally opposite operations, or you could even say voices, running inside our own minds. And these two viewpoints are given names, the ego and the Holy Spirit. Now, it's really important not to think of these as like little characters sitting on your shoulder. They're powerful metaphors for two very different ways of thinking, a choice that, according to the Course, we are making in every single moment. So the ego's whole operating system is our old friend, intention. It is constantly defining, limiting, separating, and judging. It's obsessed with drawing lines in the sand. And the psychological result of this constant division, according to the Course, is projection. We take all the inner conflict that these divisions create and we push it outward, so we see a world of conflict out there instead of in our own minds. Now, in complete contrast, the Holy Spirit's way of thinking is pure extension. Its whole purpose isn't to define and limit, but to include and unify. It just wants to dissolve boundaries until its scope is infinite. This leads to a spiritual act that the Course also calls extension, which is the natural, effortless sharing of inner peace that comes from seeing everything and everyone as one. So this presents us with a really stark choice. The ego's way of thinking, projection, literally creates a world of conflict by forcing our definitions onto it. But the Holy Spirit's way, extension, doesn't create anything new. It just reveals the peaceful, unified reality that was there all along, hiding right under our judgments. And this brings us to the ultimate and, kind of mind-bending conclusion of this entire line of thought. This is really the heart of why any of this matters. It all leads to this one profound logical point. As the Course says, if something is truly all-encompassing, if it includes absolutely everything, then what could possibly exist outside of it to be its opposite? Think about it. And here it is, the final step in the logic. If the real, what ACIM calls love or God, is truly all-encompassing, with infinite extension, then fear can't be its opposite. There's no outside for an opposite to exist in. From this point of view, the only possible conclusion is that fear, conflict, separation, they all must belong to the unreal. They can only be illusions that we ourselves have projected. So this leaves us with one last, very practical question. I mean, our minds are trained from the moment we're born to use intention, to define, to separate, to judge. So how can a mind like that even begin to grasp a reality that is one whole thing with no opposites? Well, the Course suggests the answer isn't to try and understand the whole universe at once, but simply to become willing to see one person, or maybe one situation, just a little bit differently, to choose extension over intention just for a moment and see what happens.